political class has been like trying to figure out how to do the MICA, the Polish implementation of the law. And what they did, and it started unveiling around June, July this year, was horrible. It was a 100 pages of the bill and other regulation, and it was very, very harsh because it introduced fines. It introduced fines larger than even in the traditional finance. It introduced jail time. And, the volume of the regulations, like 100 pages in Poland, 9 or 16 in other countries like Sweden or France, make it so that if you want to comply, not only you have to have a huge department of people like understanding the law, it creates basically barriers to entry. But it doesn't just create barriers to entry, it creates a chilling effect because it is going to stop completely like any activity in Poland, because even like applying is like hundreds of thousands of Polish zlotys. So it's like closing. It's like making a cartel maybe for one or two companies to operate.
Hello, Jester.
Hello, Mo.
Great to make the time to sit down and talk to each other about this project, this interesting project that you started fundraising for. And actually, you are going to realize it on January 3rd, and that is sending the Bitcoin standard to your members of parliament in Poland. Tell us how your group came up with this idea, and then other questions will come out of that.
All right, sure. I'm a member of the Polish 21 community, and we've been like Bitcoiners and talking about Bitcoin for many years now. And we've always been kind of apolitical. We haven't been involved in any happenings around us. We, of course, sometimes comment political activity, whether it's, like positive or negative. But, and we strayed from like doing anything related, remotely even close to the parliament. However, we had this idea to send this Bitcoin standard to politicians like some time ago, but it didn't fly because maybe it doesn't make sense. But 2025 changed things, because in 2025, Poland has a deadline to deliver the MICA, markets and crypto assets regulations, till the end of the year. And what it meant is that we didn't have it at all. So the businesses that were on the ground here in Poland were relying on some regulation, and that existing regulation, and that in order to operate past 2026, they would need some kind of a basis, which is now demanded in the EU. So the political class has been like trying to figure out how to do the MICA, the Polish implementation of the law. And what they did, and it started unveiling around June, July this year, was horrible. It was a 100 pages of the bill and other regulation, and it was very, very harsh because it introduced fines. It introduced fines larger than even in the traditional finance. It introduced jail time, and the volume of the regulations, like 100 pages in Poland, 9 or 16 in other countries like Sweden or France, make it so that if you want to comply, not only you have to have a huge department of people like understanding the law, it creates basically barriers to entry. But it doesn't just create barriers to entry, it creates a chilling effect because it is going to stop completely like any activity in Poland, because even like applying is like hundreds of thousands of Polish zlotys. So it's like closing. It's like making a cartel maybe for one or two companies to operate. And what's bad about it is that the companies that are going to be operating is going to be like crypto exchanges and things like that. And we are Bitcoiners. We don't want people scared away from Bitcoin. We want them to understand that there's crypto currencies and there's Bitcoin. These are two different things. And yes, there are scams, and some are not enforced. Like when somebody gets cheated, police are not successful in getting to the bottom of the story, but they should be. It shouldn't be like completely regulated like to death, right? So what we wanted to see is like a change in this area, but we don't want to get involved in politics. We wanna change things through knowledge, through education, and through smarter decision making. So that's why we thought, okay, maybe this time is actually a good time to send the books to the MPs, and we started thinking about it more or less like this summer.
This chilling effect that you are talking about is very important, because I am an individual who wants to start business, and if I want to involve Bitcoin in it, it requires me to be aware of those 100 something pages, and also the implications of them, how to implement them, how to interpret them. And that would be a very high barrier for entry. So it would discourage so many of the people right off the bat. And then, as you said, only some cartels will be able to make use of those regulations, and also have departments to interpret them. But normal individuals cannot be integrating Bitcoin into their businesses, and that's very detrimental. And what is their understanding of the Bitcoin? Because, well, you know that my Polish is not that good. It's very basic. But I have heard Polish politicians talking about Bitcoin and mentioning Bitcoin. But about the content of what they're saying, I am unaware. What is their view, and what are the outrageous or interesting things that they are saying? Are there any pro-Bitcoin people in the parliament right now?
All right. So I will not name any people, but there are pro-Bitcoin people. I don't go into the details, but let me answer your question. So yeah, indeed, it was like, I think early July when news broke of politicians actually talking about the subject matter that they are regulating. And it was horrible to see that people the politicians were reading the material about their speeches, and it was clearly visible that they don't understand the matter because they can't even properly pronounce the words of the things that they are regulating. So people were really shocked to hear about stablet coins for what stable coins, and there was a blockchain with that instead of blockchain. Of course, there is a blockchain in the blockchain. I think there was a shitcoin like that in the ages, in the ICO ages, but so there were these horrible gaffes in terms of like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. The other thing was that it was easier for them to hide. Okay, if you don't know something, what is your sentiment? And the sentiment of the MPs was largely that everything is a scam. And it's like funny situation because, yeah, I agree, this is a scam. But the way they talk about it is that they completely lose the story on Bitcoin. And like how do you say it? Flush the baby with the bathwater. It's like you have it there, and you're going to just just because you have prejudice, even well-sounded prejudice on the crypto casino and pump and dumps and all those schemes and Dascoin or whatever that one was known in Poland. Doesn't mean that there isn't that the root from what everything started, Bitcoin, has merit, because if you listen closely, it's globally more recognized by the ever increasing category of entities like banks, hedge funds, endowments, family offices, even state treasuries are thinking about how to survive in the debasement trade that is happening, where the currencies are being collapsed, but still maintain, the foothold on the digital currency. So I think I don't know, Bitcoin is like being lost here, and that is a shame. And that is primarily because of lack of knowledge of monetary history and so on.
And maybe they are always thinking about, okay, if we want to win the heart of the people, we should be protecting them from spams and scams in this case. And well, we need to regulate the crap out of this thing so none of those scams happen, but they are not thinking about any of the potentials of Bitcoin and what Bitcoin does. And they do not understand Bitcoin versus crypto. And probably if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, that's where they are coming from. They are trying to kind of probably prevent the scam, but they are making it making laws so impractical, and also making so much blunders by pronouncing words that shows that they don't know anything about this thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's been one of the most twisted stories was that there was rumors that cryptocurrency or Bitcoin is bad because Russia is using it. I mean, come on.
Money is bad because Russia is using it.
Every technology is bad because someone I don't like is using it. Like the shovel might be bad because I don't know, like a neighbor who might have a beef with that is using it. So it doesn't make sense. And in fact, okay, if you want to go even to this geopolitical story of Russia using something, well, it's exactly the same technology that Ukrainians have been using when they were fleeing Ukraine to Poland, when Russian individuals were trying to save their money because they were, there were sanctions put in place. When Belarusian citizens were using when there were COVID times and lockdowns were happening, and they were funding through Netherlands money to Belarus so that people could go to doctors and pay them just like in a private, because there's no private medical sector in Belarus. There's just the public one. So there was a medical underground sprawling, those times. It's been used by Americans funding Polish people to get cars to get Ukrainians through the border. It's been used by people fleeing Afghanistan. Yes, there was a migration route through Syria, Turkey to Berlin or Germany, but some of the people have managed to save their assets thanks to Bitcoin, despite being handled by slave traders or something. So it's there's a humanitarian case, and it's completely missed in this story, and it's a shame, and it's been outrageous. Be scared of the Russian.
One of the questions that comes to my mind is why the Bitcoin standard? I would be able to make a case for it myself, because Saifedean Ammous was the person that orange-pilled me. I knew Bitcoin before hearing him talking on that particular podcast that orange-pilled me, but he had a very pivotal role in making me understand Bitcoin. So I can also, from my point of view, make a case for why Bitcoin is standard. So I want to also know about your group, how you came up with this idea and why you chose the Bitcoin standard and why not another book.
Well, we picked this one because Saifedean talks mostly about 70% of the book is not about Bitcoin. It's about monetary history, how it evolves. So we thought that, okay, so one thing is we'd like to have a wider view on the history of what has been, how money comes about to appear on the market, that it's not only mandated through the government or through some entity, but it actually is, money is a technology that emerges on the market, right? So the history is important because whatever if you have this basis, then it's easier for you to grasp other things like private minting of money. Is it good or bad? We used to have private mints, and if there was a bad coin, you would go after the mint, not ban every minting coins. But sadly, that is exactly what has happened. So we'd like to prevent that, what happened with gold. Now, the other reason is that this is one of the first books. It gained a lot of prominence and it's globally recognized, and the author is very outspoken. Sometimes he's controversial, and I think it's a good thing because it makes people talk.
And it attracts attentions of people.
Oh, yes.
Right? That's good. Yeah, and what do you expect with this campaign to happen? Do you think that the politicians would read the books? Would it have any effect on their biases? Would they reconsider them? What are you willing to achieve with that? Because making political changes is very difficult. So I want to know what your expectations are with sending them this book.
Right. So it's like we're not trying to influence a political change in a particular direction. We want to uplift the base of knowledge for the people, and but not just for the 560 people there. We want to make it so that it is widely known that politicians have this book.
Mm-hmm.
They read the book, or maybe they at least had the opportunity to get accustomed with hard money, and that way their constituency and the journalists and all the other situations where politicians get into contact with people have this additional context of, we are now allowed to talk about Bitcoin. We can talk about Bitcoin. We can assume that the other person has more knowledge about Bitcoin than just, oh, it went up and it went down. More than just the news when there's a bear market or all-time highs. So that's one thing, because that elevates the discussion. And another thing is, okay, there is valid criticism that, okay, they will not read it. But so this is how we try to address it. We're going to try to make a, splash, let it know that people have the book. Second criticism is that, wait, what if politicians misunderstand the book and act in some kind of a obnoxious way to circumvent it, or I don't know, do something bad with it?
Like Jamie Dimon asked the government to ban it.
Yeah. While secretly having his own idea. So that's exactly what I'm a part of it. What I'm counting on, because okay, we have this vision that, this perception that politician says one thing and does the other. We it's guaranteed that they will do it because they are under this, influences and pressures and things like that. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. They might say one thing, but on an individual basis, they will be curious and, okay, how do I preserve my wealth and my friends' wealth and my family's and wider? And they will be more outspoken in terms of Bitcoin, maybe not 100% of the time, but they will be at least non-zero amount of time talking about Bitcoin. And that will, like greed is good kind of a way that it is, okay, it's good for me, so I will try to do it. And that will, like when you first found out about Bitcoin, or the second or the third time, it kind of flipped something with you and with me and all the Bitcoiners. So it makes you switch to, more of a lower time preference mode of thinking. And that permeates to your other actions. And maybe politicians who read the book will not say anything about the money, but they will say about the quality of the food, or maybe they will say something about the sugar tax or some other, thing that has impact on the health, on the education, on perpetuating wars or participating in wars, and, all the things that Bitcoiners care about, which are the result of high time preference and fiat money printing.
What would be your next moves after you finish this campaign and you ship these books on the 3rd of January 1st? Do you have any other plans to get involved with the members of the parliament? And also, do you have further plans after this campaign has ended to raise awareness regarding Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, so the success of this crowdfunding has started us to think about what next, because I don't know, I think we were blessed by Satoshi or something, because we started on the October 30th. We're going to be finishing up on the January 3rd, and on January 8th, which is I think the date of the first transaction, maybe, is when we're going to have a session in the parliament. It's not going to be me. I will not be available, but we will have a representation who in the parliament on the first session of the year, with some specially selected people who will be able to talk about it, not just send the books and it's done. We need someone to say what the problem is and what we think the solution is, and what we need to think about the separation of Bitcoin from cryptocurrencies. And that's what we're going to do. And following that, yeah, we've got some ideas. So we have a president, we have the ministries, we have the national bank, and we were thinking about some other ideas to spreading this type of, maybe not necessarily Saifedean's book, maybe some other books catered for the given audience, but like high school libraries would be very nice place to send the books, or send some education, or maybe do talks about it plus send the book, so that children, young people, the new generation who will be definitely using Bitcoin in 2045 or something, will be learning about it not from the news or media, but from people who know about it. And it's like in a good place, because when you're a teenager, like 16, 17, 18 years old, you are keen on knowledge. You want to learn about things that are different from what you're being taught. Right. So that is a perfect, I think it's a sweet spot. And because when you go to the university, you might be, encountering Keynesian economics too early.
With smart people who think that a bit of inflation is good because they have read it in a book, but maybe in high school they have a much more open mind about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds like it's in good tone to say, 2-3% is good inflation because that is the target.
And the interesting thing is that even the greatest state in the world is unable to keep it at that level. I mean, the US is unable to do that. Some of the most economically sound countries are unable to keep it at 2-3%. And why 2-3%? Nobody asks. Where does it come from?
Yeah, so the young people, I think they will say bollocks. It must be coming from somewhere, and there is an answer for it.
It kind of motivates me to learn Polish much quicker, so I am able to educate young people about Bitcoin and go to schools and accompany you on those missions. Thank you for all the explanations. Do you have any parting words for us?
So I'd like to thank everybody who participated in our Gazer campaign called Bitcoin Standard in Polish Parliament. Thanks to you, we managed to pull it off, to gather enough funds to send 560 books to all the MPs in Polish Parliament, and then continue with, some additional ideas for which, stay tuned.
Great. Keep up the great work, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mo.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and give the video a like. It really helps. If you're tuning in on a podcast app, I'd love it if you could leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way in helping more people find the show. You can also support me by listening on Podcasting 2.0 apps like Fountain or Breeze, and streaming me some sats while you listen. Feel free to zap me and follow me on Nostr too. If you'd like to send a Lightning donation, just scan the QR code or visit my Linktree. The link is in the description. You'll find more ways to support or follow my work there.